All right, here we are for our first day number 2. We're gonna work on shoulders more than arms today. So a little bit more focused here at the ball and socket joint. You're gonna need another moderate loaded dumbbell set. So I'm using the same exact one as we did in video 1. 15 pounds is what I use. We're gonna start with the smallest muscle groups this time, the rotator cuff muscles, your stabilizer muscles. We're going to do a flared rotation, externally resisted. So the external rotation is coming out, or technically up in that case. You can see how I can set this against gravity to a point where I'm not really doing a whole lot of work, just stabilizing. I don't want to spend much time there. So I'm going to spend most of my time in the descent. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then I'm going to peel it up and get right back down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get it going. If you haven't started with me, then let's go now. We're going to do as many as we can. It's probably going to become more of a fatigue factor in the overall stability of the exercise. Maybe not so much in the movement portion, just overall burn of this exercise. We're looking for 8 to 12 total. If this causes you pain in the shoulder, you can bring those elbows lower, and you can bring the dumbbells more to your center and flare out to the sides. It's still challenging, but it may help to alleviate some of the pain or compression of that joint. My left one's getting to failure already, which is typical in the non-dominant hand, especially the non-dominant side. The stabilizers are much weaker. That left one's failing, so I'm gonna have to cheat a little bit. Don't want to cheat so much that I change the technique. There was a change in the technique. I'm gonna get one more lowering. Oh, that's a burner. Again, don't change your technique, your form so much that you create that big arch like I did in my back and put your little stabilizing muscles of the shoulder at risk. That is one of the highest risk things that you can do. Come on. Our second exercise for the shoulder group is going to be lateral raises. We're going to hit more deltoids and upper trapezius here. So all those deltoid muscles, primarily the lateral ones though. I'm going to let it hang out in front, bringing it right here to my center and right in front of the thighs. From there we're going up, we're going to pause and lower slowly. Up to the sides, lower slowly. This one you've probably seen, but what we got to make sure we do is keep our spine and our sternum straight. Straight ahead, straight up and down. Don't lean with it. Don't cheat with it. Isolating that side raise and then slowly lengthening those muscles back down. Already getting pretty hard here. Shoulder muscles not quite as strong. I'm gonna have to cheat on this next one just a little bit. It'll be my last one then. That left shoulder is just totally weaker, not quite as strong. What that usually means is I gotta work on a little bit more strength on this side, build up some stamina and maximum strength to match this other side. All right, we're gonna do one more strength exercise. It's gonna hit everything in a more functional manner, a compound exercise, upright row. This is a bit of a risky exercise again, so if it causes you pain, just contact me and we'll find a modification. In this one, we're gonna use a similar cadence or pace through the exercise. We're gonna raise to the high part and slowly lower, but we're gonna get pretty quick up and down, or up on this one. Slowly down, right back up. Slowly down, right back up. This one you probably could use a little bit heavier of a load. I went with the same exact load here, so it's going to take me quite a few repetitions to feel this. Another way that you could do it is either slow things down even more to make it a little more challenging, a little more time under tension, less repetitions, more time, or vice versa. You could do more repetitions a little bit quicker. If this doesn't cause you any pain, you can get through those repetitions with a little bit more power, a little bit more speed. And in that case, boy, does it start burning. So I'm just gonna do a few more here. These shoulders are already lit up, especially the left one, which fatigues faster. 5, 4. I'm gonna do the last 2 with that slow descent. Oh, it's not easy. Woo, that's a burn. Okay, moving on to our stretching for the shoulders. We're gonna work first on our posterior shoulder and a deltoid rotator cuff stretch. It's one that you've seen pretty commonly, but I'm gonna show you how to fine tune it a little bit. So we're gonna pull this arm across our body. I'm going to use my elbow, my opposing elbow, to shorten this joint, this chest joint, essentially, right here in the front of my armpit. I'm wanting to pin that in as tight as I can across my body. So you may need to support it with your hand. I'm gonna get my whole arm to use that as our support. Now the primary goal is not just to wrench yourself across here. It's to keep your shoulders square, sternum forward, pin that arm into your chest as much as you can, and then depress my shoulder blade, or this shoulder blade, down. By squeezing that shoulder blade down and in place there, that's where I'm gonna get this stretch through the back side of the shoulder, the lateral side of the shoulder, and even in the deltoid, or in the rotator cuff, sorry. Rotator cuff and deltoid are our 2 main focuses here. So I'm actively depressing down and back. Go ahead and start if you haven't. We're going about 30 seconds on this side. So there's not one point or one moment in here when I'm not actively keeping that shoulder locked down in place, because that's what's giving me the structural stability through this backside shoulder to then isolate and stretch that area we're targeting. Let's do the other side. We're gonna pin that arm in, pull it across, keeping my palm back behind me here, and then I'm going to squeeze that shoulder blade down and in place. We're locked right in that lateral shoulder, backside shoulder stretch. This is another one where breathing becomes important. If you're able to, use your breath to try to relax in the exhale, and intensify in the inhale. As your body inhales, intra-abdominal pressure increases, the chest expands, and that stretch may also expand. Let's do the same thing, but this time we're going to release the elbow to come back around behind us a bit more. So it's still, we start with that rigid arm, rigid elbow to get that shoulder locked in place. So if you're holding it here at your hand, that's fine. Pull it down in place, lock that shoulder down and in place, and then let that elbow bend. See if you can't get it to pull a little bit harder. For me, I really got to get in a little bit more anchoring or strength for that stretch. So I'm going to go on the back side of my forearm to the back side of my tricep there. I lock it in place like I'm putting myself in an arm bar. And I'm going to let that hand reach back behind me. So now I'm getting a similar stretch, but it's a bit more intensified right in the back corner here of my shoulder. This area stays quite shortened throughout most of the day when our arms are hanging down to our side. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of time in the day that we're reaching back behind us through that arm. Release that one, shake it loose a little bit, go to the other side. Do the same thing. Pin it in real nice and tight. Find that initial stretch by squeezing the shoulder blade down and back, and then let that hand wrap around. Last year I had my first slight tear of a rotator cuff here in my right shoulder, just doing everyday stuff around the house. After having strained it a little bit, was feeling some major tightness and discomfort for a couple weeks, and then I went to pick up the edge of a couch with this one hand, and went in the back side of my shoulder. There was a pop, and this stretch right here still targets that. That was more than, that would be 18 months ago, and I can still feel the fibers in my rotator cuff right in here when I stretch that way. Okay, so that stretch is a really common one, but if you fine tune it and make those adjustments, you should still get a good stretch out of it. Some people may be lax or not tight and a little bit weaker in those muscles, might not feel that stretch much at all. It takes a good body awareness and exercise IQ to do so. So let's show you one that's a bit more dummy proof. What you do is you put your back side of your tricep up against the wall and you kind of lean into it. Almost at a 90-degree angle. You can open it up a little bit, but my sternum is essentially parallel with the wall now, the angle of my sternum. So from there, you simply push that hand down, keep the elbow high, lean into it a little bit, don't overdo it. These are nearly like putting yourself in an arm bar. You don't want to overdo this. You just want to find that mild stretch. It's always just a mild stretch, never beyond a slight feeling of discomfort. Really, it's just the feeling of lengthening that you're looking for. And you'll notice that just at the angle here, this is my right side, my dominant side, this is my throwing side, everything. You'll notice here, the angle of this arm drops way more and way easier, and the stretch feels a little bit deeper. I can feel the stretch subjectively a bit more on this side. What that means is I'm so tight on my dominant side that I'm not even really definitely not getting the same range of motion, which is obvious from the mechanical positioning, but I'm also not getting the same feeling of the stretch. That tissue's not even being elongated and giving the same subjective feel. So I can feel that stretch coming all the way through this backside shoulder, primarily right here in the back of the upper arm. Now on this, we're going to do both sides again. On this side, I feel it similarly, but it just feels really just super tight. Like it's gonna give me a pop if I go much further. So this is where you gotta have good body awareness, no rushing it. Know that you have to know that these exercises will accumulate over time. The more you do them with consistency, the more frequently you do them with consistency, you'll see adjustment and adaptation. It's never really a sprint when it comes to musculoskeletal stuff, because that's where you put yourself at risk. And any additional risk that you take on has to be weighed with that consistency and frequency in mind. We need more frequent effort rather than more effort less frequently, which is most of our tendencies, right? Get real hyper motivated, try to do it all in one day. Doesn't really work that way. Just keep listening to your body on these, especially. Don't overdo it. It may be just like a tiny little shift, and that's fine. That's all we need to get started with. Great job.